Hi, it's Adi from Hot Yoga Asheville. Today I'm going to go over just a few of the Hot 26 postures and get into a little detail. So those of you, especially who are practicing at home still, can really focus on something in the next few times you practice. The first one I want to talk about is pranayama breathing. So the most common thing I see in pranayama is people collapsing their neck, shrugging their shoulders, which then really accentuates the curvatures of the spine. And what we're trying to do in that asana is, in that part of the practice, is to lengthen the spine. So just taking a side view on pranayama, first and foremost, you want your legs fully engaged and you want your spine as straight as possible. So not that you're tucking your hips or anything, but do notice that if you have a sway back, you want to draw your tailbone down and pull your lower belly in. So as you move, it's really an emphasis on from your lower ribs to, basically the top of your head that's moving, and everything down below is staying very much the same. So you'll start with your feet together, interlace your fingers underneath your chin, and as you inhale, you pull your belly in and fill up your lungs. And notice how my spine is still really straight here. As I exhale, I lift my chest, take the elbows forward as I bring my head back. Now, what I see commonly, it looks a little bit more like this. We inhale, and we already start to arch the spine. And then when people exhale, we tend to go the opposite and concave the chest, shrug the shoulders, maybe even bend the knees a little bit. And you can see that that kind of crunches the back of the neck. So what I want you to focus on when you're doing your next time pranayama, you can hop in with me here, is that you inhale. And as you inhale, don't just focus on lifting the ribs. Try to breathe into the back of your lungs. So think of each lung on each side like a cylinder, and you want to expand that cylinder from the front all the way into the back. So you notice the belly is in and the ribs are expanding in all directions. And then as we exhale, draw your chin in. Instead of dropping the chest, draw your chin in a little bit, lift your breastbone, and then bring your head back. Notice my lower body didn't move, so I'm not collapsing in the lower back. And then I bring the elbows forward. But if you allow your neck to collapse, it does the opposite and actually closes your chest. So again, one more time, we're going to inhale. And then keeping everything straight, exhale. Notice also if you're shrugging your shoulders, try to keep the shoulders down as you wrap the shoulders and the elbows forward towards the front. Okay, so the next posture we're going to talk about is half moon. I like to focus on breathing and half moon because these are really fundamental to setting up your entire practice. So for half moon pose, and especially right now, where a lot of us are sitting down these days. So when we do half moon pose, I'll give you a side view here. I see a lot of students look good in the setup, but then what happens is as we get into the posture, everything sort of buckles forward. So the arms want to come forward, and we want to, again, close the front of the body. In an ideal world, we're going to keep the legs straight, arms straight, pull belly in. We're not arching. So notice you want to cinch your lower rib cage. It's like you're wearing a corset. Pull your ribs in, pull up through your pelvic floor, and then keeping all of that engaged, which is super challenging, but that's how you're going to get your nice abs. We're going to slowly side bend to the right. Keeping your hips in line, so left hip forward, right shoulder forward, rather than allowing all of this to collapse. Keep it open in the front. Pull your belly in, and then you simply come up and you go to the other side. So to reiterate, no collapsing, even if it means you don't go as far. And then try not to overarch. That's the other thing we see a lot is people overarch and get into the lower back too much, which can cause a little bit of aggravation in the SI joint. So if you're going to the side, it's straight up and down versus pushing the hips too far forward and the upper body back, which is going to feel not so great in your lower back. So pay attention to those couple of things. That should help you out and give you a good start when we're starting class. The next posture I want to talk about is how to modify your eagle posture. So if you're not able to take a full bind in your arms and get your palms together and all that jazz, no big deal. I've got a couple of suggestions for you. So the first suggestion is simply cross one under the other, keep this arm bent, this arm straight, and pull down. And this pulling down action is going to help to open up the top of the shoulders. I actually like one arm straight better than hugging in. When you hug in, we tend to do that collapsing chest thing again. So keeping the spine straight, chest lifted. If you do one arm out, you'll get a nicer stretch in the outer shoulder. And this is a great place to start. If you can get to the palms closer, that's awesome too. And then maybe you just hook your thumb. Don't break your thumb. Just hook your thumb nice and gently and hold there. Over time, and this was a process for me for about 5 years, just like walking little by little by little every day, a little bit more. Once you can get your hands interlocked, I love this little wrench action. I sometimes do this just to get a little deeper into the shoulders, then I stay right there. So one shoulder is going to look a little higher than the other. That's totally normal. When we get to the other side, that'll obviously switch, and then eventually releasing the palms. But try not to get stuck in sort of a middle ground. There's always a little bit more to work towards. So have fun with it. When you get into your seated part of this posture, again, we sit back and lift the one leg over the other. If that's all you can get to, that's no problem. Do point your foot where you'd like it to go. And then you stay here. This allows your hips to strengthen. This is working through your inner thighs, your pelvic floor. And then over time, maybe you'll hook the foot. But again, all of this might take a few years of regular practice. So hope that helps you with your eagle pose. The next posture is the mega posture, right? Everybody's favorite. Just kidding, nobody's favorite, but we all need it. Standing head to knee. So the biggest thing when you're working on standing head to knee is to keep your standing leg straight. And a lot of times we'll be straight here in the setup, and then as we round over, everything starts to buckle. So the standing leg bends, and then we maybe grab on somewhere, and then we maybe hold on for dear life for the rest of the posture and wait for the next set. But better, in my opinion, to keep your standing leg straight, this leg where it should be. Now notice the heel is not in, the heel is out under your knee. You're going to round your upper back, and then maybe you stay right here. I was here for actually a year before I was able to even hold the foot in the proper place. So staying here is a great place to stay because it's helping you to build the standing leg foundation. It's helping you to build into the front of your core. And then over time, all the other postures that we do in class are going to help open up the backside of your body so that eventually you can grip. But we don't want to force it, get here, and then just kind of stay stuck forever. I love to play around with that. Maybe it feels good to stay here for a minute, and then you step out, and then you try it this way. But for longevity and for a sustainable practice that's going to build and build and build, I prefer to instruct keeping that leg straight, rounding over, staying here, and then little by little grabbing the foot. Now, those of you that are ready to begin to kick your heel, be sure that you're not kicking down because that's going to put some pressure on the lower back. We don't want that. And then be sure you're not holding on with your shoulders. So again, this is what we see is people kind of grabbing on with their hands and shrugging the shoulders. This power of this posture comes from your legs and from your core. So you hold on, lift the heel in line with the hip. I like to imagine a bifold door. So that door is just sliding on this horizontal line. We just bring the heel out, relax the shoulders, and then eventually the elbows come down. Now I could do this without hands because that's how much strength is going to be developed in your legs. Again, it's another one of those postures that's just going to take time, patience, diligence, and being interested in how you progress in your body. It's a great one to help build strength in your thighs and protect your knees as well. The next posture I want to talk about is going to be our standing bow pulling pose. So standing bow pulling pose, again, we start with feet together, the legs nice and engaged. And when we say lock your knee, what we mean is lift the kneecap. So you're lifting your kneecap so that your quad is fully engaged. And this is safe because we're not jumping and we're not lifting weights on that locked leg. We're just simply stabilizing and firing up all the muscles in the leg, helping to stabilize your ankle and your knee and your hip joint over time. So standing bow, we're going to reach back and grab the foot from the inside. You notice that the palm is out and the inner elbow is facing out. We see a lot of people twist, which closes the shoulder and is really very different. So if you can, palm out, grab the inside. If you can't grab the inside, grab the outside of your foot. This is my little top tip here. And then you're going to walk your hand around your foot little by little until eventually you grab the inside of the foot. Start with your knees together, left arm up, and then take a moment to relax your shoulders away from each other. So one shoulder back and the other arm nice and up and high. Now, again, we don't want to arch and collapse into the lower back and into the belly. So even here, pull your ribs in, pull your knees in, and then with nice and engaged belly, we're going to kick back and up. And we just stay and we kick. Oftentimes I see people really drive their body forward and we end up really straight. And then it can be very hard to pick it up. So I'm a fan of stretching up, really kicking away, staying here, and allowing that lift to happen over time, little by little. All right, and eventually we're going to get those 2 feet in one line. Again, I'm just going to go to these beginning steps of the postures. I just want you to understand the progression as we move through these postures. The next posture I'm going to jump ahead to is separate leg stretching. So in separate leg stretching, a lot of times students aren't able to get that full stretch with legs straight. So what is really important to remember is that you want your spine to stay straight. So here, arms are out wide, toes are slightly in, so the outsides of the feet are parallel to each other. We inhale, lift the chest, and come forward. So let's say you get here and you're like, no thank you, ma'am, I can't go any further. Bend your knees, and then touch your hands to the floor. And then elongate. Elongate the crown of your head forward and your tailbone back. If this is all you can get to, that's great. The idea is tractioning your spine. And then, as you can start to bend your elbows, you lower your upper body down. Maybe you start to feel the hips go up a little higher. Sometimes people will immediately jam the knees back and then round the upper back, and we get kind of stuck here. Okay, this can put a lot of strain in the lower back, and it also sort of skips the muscles and the fascia layers. So bending the knees is actually totally fine, and then eventually we'll grab the outsides of the feet, stepping on the fingers. Bring your elbows in, keep your spine straight, stretch your body down. So here my spine is still straight and my knees are still bent because feeling kind of tight, right? Then over time, body weight forward, slowly, slowly sending the knees back, lift your hips up, and bring your body through your legs. Again, don't force. Really allow gravity to help you there to find the length, find the stretch in the hamstrings and in the hips. No pressure on the lower back. It shouldn't feel like any pain down there. So if you're feeling pain in your back, bend your knees, try to get into the legs a little bit more. Over time, we'll do the stretching for a spine, especially in other postures. So remember that this class is really a holistic experience. We're not just focused on one posture at a time. All of them build on each other. The next posture I want to break apart for you guys in the standing series is triangle pose. So most commonly in triangle pose, I see people lift their chin, start to back bend, and then it's also a spine twist, which is no good. You don't want to back bend and spine twist at the same time. That could cause a lot of issues in the spine. So be very aware that when you're doing a triangle pose, the spine is as straight as it can be. So you're opening up the inner thighs, your knee, you should be able to see your big toe on the floor, so it's not curled in. It's out. And then the spine is as straight as possible. So a lot of times we get this little sway back and then we move the arms and then we're trying to look up at the ceiling and we're also trying to twist, and that can not feel so awesome, and you're also going to feel like you're holding on for dear life. So get your spine straight. Pull your ribs in. This is the cue. This is the magic cue. Ribs in, pubic bone, pelvic floor up, and then we look to one side and move the arms. So again, if you're opening, it's going to feel a little bit more unstable. You want to pull your ribs in, pull your belly in, and it's a relatively straight line down the back of the body. Okay, and again, you might have to play with this. As far as your alignment goes in your knee, you don't want your knee going past your toes because that's going to put a lot of pressure on the knee. And also, if you're too wide, it's going to feel like a lot of pressure on the hips. So there is this magic sweet spot where your femur bone is parallel to the floor and your knee is right over the center of your foot. So play around with that as you do it. We want chin down towards the shoulder rather than chin up and really open in the front side. We want to pull in. Okay. Next in the standing series, we're going to go over tree pose. So tree pose is and we'll go into toe stand as well. Why not? I'm already here. So with tree pose, sometimes it can be hard to bring the foot up all the way. And then I see some students get stuck about here, and that's okay. That's a great place to be for a little while. But better, maybe try to give your knee a little squeeze in. So it's sort of like that wind removing pose. Hug your knee in, then grab your foot, put it to the front of the hip. If your knee is high, that's all right. Over time, we're going to take that hand around and slowly lower the knee down and back. Now think about triangle that we just did. We want to engage that outer glute and press the knee down and back gently, gently, little by little to open up the front of the hips. So it's very similar to the action here where we're opening the hip and engaging the outer glute. Those of you that are ready to give toe stand a try, my top tip here is you come down as slow as you can, touch your hands on the floor. Now, a lot of times one hip is super high. So this is where it can help to have a mirror. You can peek in the mirrors, make sure your hips are in line, walk your hands forward, come up on your toes, and then have a seat here with your heel at the center of your hips. Now, sometimes I see students go from here and we just try to balance, again, holding on for dear life. We want to ideally point the toes, lower that knee so your knees are level. Walk the hands to the sides of the hips. Now, this is where it gets a little scary. How do we go from hands down to hands up to the chest? If our hands are down and we immediately go here, then the spine is round and we're trying to straighten and we tend to fall. So ideally, stretch up first. Stretch up, stretch up, stretch up, stretch up. Let your fingers come off the floor. Once you have that alignment, hands up to heart center, looking at the floor for balance. To come out of the posture, put your hands down, push the floor away. If you ever get stuck, you can just knock your foot off or come on up and release your foot back down. So those are my top tips for the standing series in Hot 26. I hope they help you out today and join me on the mat. I've got some other classes here for you. I'll see you soon.